What's up, Alex?
Man, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm good, man. It's a busy week. So before we get started with the episode, got an interesting situation for you at work.
Shoot.
So I have to figure out how to tell. So overall, we're going to have to let one of the contractors go. That's supporting. That's on my team,
Mhm.
and it's an interesting situation because she's been working remote for a period of time because her stepdad has dementia and it's a lot for her mom to handle by herself. So she's been
Yeah.
out of town to handle that. So, um, but the thing is, I really don't know like what conversations that are being had back and forth. I'm just every time she would update me on stuff, I always tell her like, "Hey, just make sure you're covered with your company, whatever." So, but then we were on Wednesday. Uh, I get told because I'm thinking we had an interview on Thursday. I thought we were gonna bring in some like another addition to the team. On Wednesday, I get told like, oh hey, we're actually gonna replace so and so with this potential candidate that you're interviewing on Thursday. I said, oh, okay. And then they were telling me, yeah, and you're gonna have to let her know that, if this candidate's the right fit, you're gonna have to let her know that
She's out.
yeah. And it just so happens that the candidate is the right fit. So now I gotta figure out how I'm going to tell that.
This is your first fire?
Yeah, yeah. And it's not even a performance thing. It's
Yeah,
just she's just not here.
yeah.
So
We're changing it to in-house.
so yeah. So I gotta figure that out because I gotta do that next week. So it'll be interesting.
What are you thinking?
Um. So before I have to talk to her, I have me and another teammate have to talk to the manager, like just to debrief about the interview for the candidate that we just did. And so in that meeting, I'm gonna just ask questions about okay, what's leading to her being let go? Is it just solely because she's not here, or like what's the details? Because I think my thing is I don't know what happens on their side. I just know what's being told to me.
Yeah,
And it's weird because like I'm not her boss. I'm just the team lead.
yeah.
So she just lets me know like what's going on. So but the decisions are made by my boss. So yeah, that's how I'm gonna play. When we have a debrief on Monday with the manager, I'm gonna ask questions about what's leading to this situation, and then depending on how that conversation goes, that's gonna help me figure out how I want to play this out.
Right.
So
So I mean, basically, you're just making you're bringing the position in-house.
yeah. That's it. We're just bringing in somebody that's gonna be full time at the office.
There you go.
So yeah,
Yeah,
it's just I think for me it's a tricky situation because of the fact that she's literally going. It's not performance based. Like if it was performance based, I think I'll be okay.
yeah.
Um, but because of the fact that she's actually taking care of family, it's
It
just
just
like
feels different.
it feels, yeah, and she's like, and she gets glowing reviews from people. So I think that's the part. So I just don't know where her head's going to be at
Yeah,
because she has a lot on the plate right now. So we'll see. See
yeah.
how it goes.
Is she with her being a contractor? I'm sure she'll be able to pick up another position quick, right?
Yeah. She's good enough where she'll be fine. It's just shitty timing.
Yeah.
So
Damn.
yeah. So it's like damn, she's just literally like it's not performance. It's just she's just in a just shitty timing. Like dad's having dementia. You know, you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So so
Is
yeah,
this is that's tough.
yeah,
That's tough.
yeah. Like like I said, if it was like strictly performance, the emotion can be taken out.
Right.
But because of the fact you're literally working remote to take care of a family member, it's like
And she was in house.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
Yeah, she was. She was in the office full time, and then
I get that. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
tracking on that now.
yeah. So and then this was going on, and she was doing like she was doing at first she was going down like Louisiana on the weekends,
Yeah.
and then like we'll come back on Tuesday, and then work through Tuesday through Friday, and then was like doing that for a minute,
Right.
and then just it got to a point where she just told me and my boss like, hey, I need to be down there full time
Yeah.
for like a time period. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
Damn.
So I'll have an update on uh
Next week or so.
next week's episode how
Sheesh.
that went. So
Yeah. No, you got it, man. It's the first one's always the toughest, but it's one of those things that once you understand that like this is just part of the process.
yeah, it's just business, you know.
Yeah.
So it was funny. I was talking to my dad. He was just like, "Yeah, this is kind of a test for you.
Yeah.
You know, I think your boss is just going to look at you to see like how you handle it."
Mm-hmm.
So.
And how you handle it, what you do, how you do it, all the above, which, ideally the biggest thing right now is just getting the facts, presenting the facts, and just saying like,
That's
I'm
it.
just the messenger on this one.
Right, right. Stick to that
Yep.
because I'm literally I. It was funny because on Wednesday before the interview, she told me like, "Hey, I'll be back in the office next week full time." So I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then later on that day, I get the news from the person that's doing the interview with me. Hey, it's actually we're interviewing her replacement. So I'm like, what happened between
Mm-hmm.
her telling me this and then now we got to this decision?
Yeah.
But then again, I don't know the background with a lot,
Yeah.
with what's going on. So it could have been something leading up to this or,
Yeah.
you know,
And that's the
so
thing with a remote position, man. You're either getting micromanaged or you're not getting managed enough to where the reports are not coming in
right.
or whatever's not, clearly there's a disconnect.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. It's hard to because when she first started working remote, she had worked something out where she was sending like weekly progress reports or whatever
Yeah.
to my manager, and so I don't know how that was going and all that, but again, it just gets to a point, especially in the climate we're in now, where it's like, hey, we just need
We need bodies.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
even we had and I'll wrap it up here, but we had a whole company meeting about now they're changing up our work from home. Like it used to be pretty flexible. Like if you had, let's say, like you had like a I don't know doctor's appointment, whatever,
Right.
or man, it just makes sense for you to work from home that day. Like you could do that, but now like the CEO herself was saying like, hey, only Fridays now. So now, and it was funny because like for me, it's like. Okay, it's not a big
Yeah.
deal. Like I go in the office every day anyway, so
Yeah.
but you can feel like the temperature in the room kind of like
Yeah.
what's going on? Like so interesting times,
It's
man.
it's that it's the change, man. Everybody's
Yeah,
coming back in office.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I mean that started to happen probably last year or the year before. Now
Mm,
maybe it was last year when everybody started coming back into the office and it was becoming like a mandatory thing.
yeah.
And there's a
Hmm.
lot of people that just like lost their jobs because like, we're not coming back in.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like it's an interesting thing because I mean there's a lot of flexibility with that opportunity, but on the back end, like you can get in like a routine, you can handle it that way. But
Yeah.
me working from home, man, I get a lot done, but I can also get distracted very easily.
Yeah, yeah. I'll say for me also, it's one of those things like when I'm home, I just want to be home. I don't really
Hmm.
want to like work or anything like that's why sometimes like I'll stay at the office like maybe till like however long until I get done what I need to get done and
Yeah,
then when I'm home I can just
turn it off.
decompress
Yeah,
so um and then also it's all about you know uh face value too like we're still in at least at my job it's still a culture of like if people can see your face it means a little bit more something than you working remote.
yep,
Like even if you're not doing nothing in the
Yeah.
office, but like them seeing you every day,
It,
like it's just a perception
yeah.
thing.
It's like,
Yeah,
oh, you're working. Hmm.
right,
Yeah, I mean, I have that same thing here. Like when some of the guys work from home, I'm like, "Are you working? Like, what are you doing?"
right,
You know what I mean?
right,
And then, but when they're here and they're not working, they're here, and so I'm almost like,
right. It
"Yeah,
kind of plays a little trick on you.
yeah, exactly, exactly."
So
What we getting into today, man?
yeah, so today we're going to talk about the balance man, strength, sensitivity, and give me a second, guys. Hold on. The balance man, strength, sensitivity, and living with purpose. And so I have a clip here I always like to play before we start to break it down. Just to give a little bit more context behind the clip. It's a Jocko Willnick. He's interviewing Jason Wilson, who's like one of the kind of a trending topic right now on social media. Um, and so he's talk really breaking down like what a comprehensive man is. So I have a clip here that would like you to hear before we break it down. So the comprehensive man, he's courageous but also compassionate, strong but sensitive. He lives from the good in his heart instead of the fear of how he'll be perceived. Mm. So, Mr. Corbin, based on that quote, how does that resonate with you?
I like it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I may not live up to it all the time.
Yeah. Okay,
Hmm.
same. It kind of, that quote put a mirror up for
Yeah,
me. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm coming off of a decent argument
Mm,
with Zara.
mm,
Um,
mhm.
and so I'm a little bit, it's a little sensitive, you know what I mean?
Yeah, a little sensitive right now.
Because
Uh-huh.
I was, I get in this mode, man, when I get on my defense,
Yeah.
right? If I get put on my defense,
Hmm.
there's something that kind of comes over me,
Yeah.
right? And it's almost as if it's almost like a I don't care mode,
Yeah.
right? And it's problematic, bro, because I know that it's going, like I know that it's coming,
Yeah.
but once it's there, there's no turning back.
Yeah.
Like, and as much as I want to, and I'm much like that mental thought of like, all right, I'm just gonna hold her hand and be like, I'm sorry, I'm being difficult, right? There's just no stopping it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like somebody just pushed the ball down the hill
Yeah.
and it's just going.
Yeah.
And it it's one of those things where I I get in this mode of just like, I don't care. Whatever you're talking about right now, it ain't nothing.
Do
And
you,
I know that it's wrong.
yeah. Do you think it's a I don't care, or is it a let me put up this I don't care facade to so I really don't get hurt from so I don't have to feel how I feel, like feel my feelings in this situation.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably that, right?
Yeah,
More so that.
yeah,
Um, but also it also comes with like maybe I don't know how to deal with what's going on, or maybe
true.
I don't know how to deal with the emotional, the emotional female,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? The emotions that a female goes through is not the same emotions that I go through.
Right.
And for me, um, I can get kind of caught up in that maybe, and I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
you're saying things to me,
Right.
but
But it's
I just need what's wrong, what the situation is,
right.
how you feel like I can address the situation,
Yeah,
and then I can maneuver from there. But, a story about, because a story is emotional,
yeah.
right? And when I say story, I mean like the process of building
Like the
up, like
storytelling.
these are the
Yeah,
things that have
yeah.
happened, and
Hmm.
and to me, I'm just like, what am I processing right now? Like, are we talking about this, and this? Or are we talking about this and this?
Yeah.
Right? And that to me just kind of gets a little bit complicated,
Oh
which is
yeah.
crazy to
Hmm.
think about because I deal with that
Yeah, yeah,
on a
yeah. With
regular
your
basis,
team, yeah.
but I'm also not tied emotionally to it.
Right, right, right. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, your girlfriend and your coworker,
You
and
go
your
coworker, yeah.
employees, that's a whole different relationship. But I'm the same way also. I know my defense mechanism is like when I get kind of back against the wall in an argument with, Vanessa or whoever, I get into that like, well, I really don't care about what you're saying.
Yeah.
Um, but um, what I had to realize was like even after the whole argument's done, it's like, well, I actually do feel some type of way of, whatever they said. And so, um, like for example, um, like when me and Vanessa will get into an argument, similar to with Z, like, like sometimes it can, especially if it's like a heightened emotion, like it
Hmm.
can kind of be all over the place. And so sometimes I can feel myself getting lost more into the emotional side, like the delivery of the message or
Hmm.
like the tone of the message,
Hmm.
instead of like really honing in on what's being said.
Hmm.
And so what I know the thing that I do is I'm trying to get better at is like pausing them.
Hmm.
Like so they'll say like, well, I feel like da 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 da, and you da 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 da. And so I'll be like, okay, so I don't mean to interrupt, but so you're telling me like you feel like I don't listen enough or I don't remember stuff? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, and then so I try to do that in the like
In the moment.
right, and it's tricky because it's like I have to really be strategic because I don't want it to turn into oh, you're always interrupting me
Hmm.
because it's a slippery slope in a
Yeah.
heightened argument like that. So I think that's one of the things that I try to really just I try to listen to the message
Yeah.
because I'm a person that can be sensitive to tones too. Because as soon as I feel like you're disrespecting me or even not listening to me, like like you said, I'll just get to that mode like, all right, man, like this stuff's not even worth it.
Yeah.
So, but what do you feel like? Do you feel like that was a learned behavior, or do you feel like that was something that was just developed through different experiences and situations in your life? Like that type of defense mechanism when you.
Yeah. It's a good question, bro.
Hmm.
Right. I think it's something internal.
Hmm.
Um, Clearly, right? But I've not noticed it as deeply as I have recently, like just over the past year or so.
Yeah.
That I kind of started noticing, like, oh, there's certain moments where I'm just like I'm turned off. Like
Yeah. Yeah. The
there,
switch.
yeah, you're just not there.
Yep.
And it's like the lights are on, but nobody's home kind of thing. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, yeah, whatever.
Your body's there, but your
Yeah.
mind checked out.
But
Yeah.
then it also gets like real, it gets real like maybe vindictive, right? Where
Mm,
I'm like, I'm
yeah.
saying things and I'm like, you don't mean that.
Yeah.
You don't mean that.
Like
And
hurtful
it's
stuff.
yeah, and
Hmm.
maybe not completely hurtful, but well, yeah, yeah, no, 100%. Like the idea of like, nah, I don't want this no more. Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that type. And
Yeah.
then that kind of plays now on it's a weird dynamic, bro. And
Yeah.
so that's what I'm saying is like I don't know if it's learned because I don't ever it could be. It could be somewhat learned and then also from experience of like obviously being hurt or whatever and then
Hmm.
kind of putting up that shield of like that's not gonna happen again.
Yeah.
Which and maybe that's why I see it so much more now because it's so deeply ingrained
Yeah.
that I'm just kind of like, nah, that ain't happening again.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're seeing it too because you want to change it, right?
Yeah.
Like before, you might not have been so as reflective because like you just it wasn't enough for you to like actually look within yourself and say, okay, maybe this is something that I need to work on, or I need to work on how I'm receiving stuff. But um, I think, I think that's just as you get older too. You just wanna
Yeah.
you just wanna understand like is there certain things that happened in the past that's making me be like this when I'm in a heightened situation where emotions all at all time high or argument or what's really causing me to put up this like facade or this like
Hmm.
defense mechanism because like similar to you like I can get very like vindictive and snappy.
Spiteful.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, like for example, and real smart alecky.
Hmm. Oh, bro.
So so it was me, Vanessa. We was in Charlotte, and I had to get my whole AC unit replaced in my car. Came up like $2,000. Now, this was a time where I didn't need to be spending that type of money,
Yeah.
but had to get done because it was like middle of the summer.
Yeah.
So get it done, and uh, we went we went out to eat afterwards after I picked up my car and like I'm just in like the worst mood because
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I just had to spend $2,000. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
And so like Nessa makes a comment because she's been at the time she's been really like adamant about like getting like this American Express credit card so you can get points and we can use those points for for flights and
Hmm.
just stuff like that. And so in that moment she was like, "Hey, think about it like this. Like, if you had your American Express card, you could have, that could have been just more points, added to the card, da da da." And I was like, "Yeah, that's not fucking making me feel better." and and it was funny because as soon as I said it, I was like, ah.
Yeah.
I was like, literally, like you talking about like complete shutdown. Like I'm talking about she shut down completely and was just like almost like just shocked,
Yeah.
It's and like I just even I felt
Yeah.
that
That
because
shocked
like
me.
yeah because like I really for me I really try not to cuss like if
Hmm.
I'm arguing with people I
Hmm.
try not to cuss at them like that.
Yeah.
But in that moment I was just I'm talking about like I'm like pissed. I'm pissed I had to drop $2,000. And she says that, and it's funny because like when I'm like pissed like that, like I'm interpreting things completely wrong.
Hmm.
Like her intention was like to try to make this from a negative to a positive
Yeah.
like situation. I'm looking at that as more as like what the hell?
Yeah.
Like that was so dumb. Like you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, like and like as soon as I said that, I was like, ah. And so we went and got our food and we were eating and it was just very like awkward, very quiet.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, look, Vanessa, I know you was, once I calmed down, look, I know you was trying to help. I'm sorry that I did not mean to say that. And then,
Yeah.
we were good. But it's just like those type of situations, like that's why I realized like, okay, like I need to continue. There's still some work that needs to be
Yeah.
done. So it's yeah, it's just a learning process, man. Like so it I guess for you, right? What would be an example of like the example I just gave where you said something just completely like off your rocker and then you came back and had to apologize, whether it's to Z or whoever.
Yeah. That's one of those things, right? Like to me, I stay in that mode, man.
Yeah.
Just that I don't care mode up until I don't, right?
Hmm.
And it's for me, I need the space to be
Yeah.
able to kind of to wrap my brain around. And And I really try to make sure that it's one of those conversations where I'm like, yo, I, I'm not in the space right now. Like
Right.
I'm not going to be able to have this conversation.
Right.
Um, and that sometimes it hits, but sometimes it's like, all right, this is more of a pressing conversation, right? And you don't have that time to be able to
Mm-hmm.
kind of process it. And I know for a fact if I didn't got it, then I'm not going to be a benefit to the conversation,
Right.
right?
So you would rather just separate yourself and then come back?
Ideally,
Mm-hmm.
right? Once I feel myself getting to that point,
Right.
but um, even with that separation, sometimes there's a crack in the foundation, right? And so it's like I almost need I want to be able to be like, hey, look, that was on me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And 100% I'm taking the blame, but it's hard for me to be like that pride gets in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And
That,
like
yeah. Yeah.
even today, because Zara and I had a miscommunication last night.
Mm-hmm.
And this morning I was still kind of in that mode where I was like, nah,
I
I'm
ain't gonna be the one to
like
speak first. Yeah.
I'm tired.
Right.
I'm behind.
Right.
I'm behind because of the things that the
We.
whole long conversation.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just like, nah, I'm not. Mm-mm. And then she called me like after the event
Yeah.
that morning, and she just called me and was like, "Are you okay just leaving like that?" And I was like, that was the question I needed, right?
Yeah.
But I was also like, yeah, I'm cool with that. Yeah,
You still had the wall up.
it's still
Yeah.
pushing. And then it took me a minute. And I was like, all right, look, I didn't have perspective on the situation.
Yeah.
And I needed that. And because I didn't have that, I felt myself getting emotional
Mm-hmm.
and whatever form of emotion that was. And then I was like, my my mental state was just like, all right, just clearly this is not going nowhere,
Yeah.
right? We need to, and then it just immediately once that happens, I'm shutting down.
Yeah.
And the moment I shut down, bro, you could, I don't even know, like you could get violent with me, and I'm like, nah,
Right. Right.
I'm not.
I'm disengaged
Yeah,
at this
I'm just
point.
completely disengaged,
Right.
and it's so hard for me to pull back into like that loving, caring moment
Mm-hmm.
and the person that you should be in those moments.
Right.
I just over detach, bro.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's so much harder to get back into that space of like that love and caring moment. Um, and being able to share the vulnerability and the sensitivity that kind of goes along with that because my brain doesn't know how to wire that sometimes.
Yeah.
And so yeah, to kind of get back to that moment, 100%. I look at the situation, I look where I messed up, right? I
Mm-hmm.
look at the what can I take ownership of in this moment,
Yeah.
um, and then moving forward, what are the actual things of addressing,
Yeah.
right? Which I think is helpful to be able to separate in that moment
Yeah.
because the heat that is driven off of frustration
Yeah.
and the heat that is driven off of just being upset
Mm-hmm.
can be cloudy,
Yeah.
right? And it's so much harder to, that's leadership,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? That's where the leadership aspect comes into a relationship is you have to understand when that moment's happening, right? You got to be able to understand like, all right, I'm being a little bit in not in the energy that I need to be into,
Yeah.
right?
I've learned also, like you said, being in that leadership role in a relationship, like it's normally going to have to be you to like initiate that
Mhm.
conversation.
Which huge on you for being able to be like, you pause real quick. Do I understand what actually is happening in this moment? Like
Right.
that was something JP Donnell, when I had him on the other podcast,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about, and he was like, with your subordinates or your coworkers or whatever, you're having a conversation.
Right.
If they can't repeat it back to you, then they actually don't understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's something on a good level, like that's high leadership skill is being able to be like, all right, pause real quick. So I understand. This is what I understand of the conversation at the current moment.
Yep.
That's huge on you, bro.
Yeah, it's funny because like I didn't even learn. I learned that like just being in meetings at work. Because like sometimes I'll be in a meeting and um they might they might be talking about something or they'll mention my name and like say, "Well, Alex, can you take this action item?" Yada 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 yada. And sometimes I'll get into like a mindset of like if it's not like if I feel like it's not a complicated ask, I won't write it down. And so, but and then sometimes like and again, this is where like pride and ego comes into play. Like they'll ask me to do something and I might not know what they're completely saying.
Hmm.
And so like the pride and ego will say like, oh, okay, yeah, I got it.
Hmm.
And then I leave the meeting, I'm like, what was
Yeah,
he saying? Or what do you want me to do? So then like it results to me like having to like either email them back or call them back, say, hey, like remind me of da da da. Like trying to play
yeah,
it like I try to play it off a little bit.
yeah,
So um I think for me it's I've realized like there's really no shame in like stopping a person in like the middle of like their sentence
hmm,
or even after like they finish the thought and say like, okay, so I just want to make sure I understand and be clear. You want me to do this, this, and this, and then then it gets back to the dialogue. So
yeah,
I learned that at work, and then now I try to like apply those skills
yeah,
in certain aspects of a relationship as well. But I want to talk about, and you mentioned it, pride and ego. Do you feel that's one of our as men today, do you feel like that's one of our main obstacles when it and uh that hinders us into becoming more balanced, like more balanced men, like so we can be, you know, we can be sensitive and empathetic and also be, aggressive and protect as we need to. But
yeah,
do you feel like pride and ego can get into the way of like those situations where
yeah.
I need to be sensitive and and empathetic with my significant other or with my employees? Do you feel like pride and ego can get into the way of that sometimes?
Yeah,
And the reason I say that is because like maybe like you don't want to appear a certain way or be perceived like being weak
yeah,
if I have to like, you know, have to really lean into like being more like sensitive or more empathetic.
yeah. Um, I think that's a big part, right? I mean, you see that with just violence in
Hmm.
general, right?
Oh yeah.
You see that with altercations at like a bar. You
Hmm.
see that at, th those are main levels, right? But you see it across the board. Like you see guys that run a company into the ground because of their pride and ego, right?
Hmm.
You see people who die alone because of
Hmm.
pride and
Right. Ego.
ego.
Yeah.
Um, and that's one of those things. And then you also have people who, choose things in their life based off of pride and ego.
Yeah.
And they get stuck in this weird space.
Yeah.
And it's important to be able to just understand that, right? Understand when that switch is turning on. And maybe that's what my switch is,
Yeah.
right? And maybe it's just me being, having an ego,
Hmm.
right? And then being like, well, what are you? You're not gonna face me,
Right. Right.
right?
Right.
Like,
You're not really saying nothing anyways,
yeah,
right?
right. And that may be it. Um, but I think mentally I'm playing a trick on myself because it's like because I'm taking ownership of the situation,
Hmm.
it's like giving me an excuse to be the way that I'm acting. You know
Because
what I'm
I'm
saying?
because I'm in control of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
fair.
Because it's like, all right, well, you're right. It is my fault. I'll address them.
Right.
Done.
So,
You know what I'm
so
saying?
now it's like I just gave myself
Yeah,
power
yeah.
to
What?
essentially act how I want to act
Right.
now. Yeah.
Because and maybe that is a piece of it, right? But because I'm like, you know what? You are right. Well, now.
Mhm.
And I understand that I need to make these adjustments, but in that space, it comes across as me being arrogant. It
Yeah.
comes across me being um, whatever else. But that's being able to get to the point of noticing that it's happening,
Hmm.
right? For a lot of men, it's like, oh, you're not gonna make me look like a bitch.
Right.
That ain't happening,
Right.
right? And then that's when the bottle gets thrown, and then that's when, someone's head ends up busted
When
up.
the
You know what I mean?
situation goes left.
Right.
How you feel? How you feel about this whole like alpha male movement, like alpha versus beta
I'm gonna
type
be
of?
honest, dude. I'm not huge on it, but also I think it's needed.
Mm.
Honestly,
Mm.
honestly, like, and in my position, um, of being around the younger generation, being around um some folks, and it can be taken incorrectly, right?
Hmm.
The idea that you're supposed to treat a woman negatively, or you're supposed to do these other things, like that's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
Right? What I'm talking about is the idea of you should be able to control your life,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
should be able to be in control of your money.
Right.
You should have all of these things taken care of. You should be able to fight and whoop someone's ass. You should be able to know how to, run a gun.
Right. Right.
Like
Right.
all of these things that are considered the alpha male situation are important factors,
Yeah.
right? Where people take it wrong is like, okay, well, he's just sleeping around with a bunch of females or,
Right.
whatever,
Right.
you
Right.
know.
Right. Right. Right.
But
Right.
that's not cool, right? Like,
Right.
or not cool. That's not the alpha male that I'm talking about.
Right. And I agree too. That's well, like with that whole alpha versus beta, that type of like discussion, or I think, like you said, the good side of those type of conversations is it's forcing men to look within themselves and say like, okay, I need to take control of my life,
Hmm.
whether it's getting better financially, getting better physically, getting better mentally, putting myself in a space where I can be more self-sufficient.
Yeah.
I do agree where like that's the good side of it, and then also like that bad side where like I think a lot of people just see it like, oh, these are just guys who were picked on and now they're just trying to sleep with as many women,
Yeah.
like that whole thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's on it's all about like who's talking.
Yeah.
Because like sometimes like you hear those type of discussions and either how they look or just how they're like even like how they're delivering the
Yeah.
message. You're like, yeah, he's saying good stuff, but I know for a fact
He's not following
he's
it.
not following it for real.
Yeah.
This is just more of like a hot topic thing versus more of
Yeah.
like him actually like living what he's saying.
Yeah. And I
So
mean, and that's like that whole process started with Andrew Tate.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like that whole process, both of them.
Hmm.
Um, and it created this, super controversial situation.
Hmm.
But there's also a lot to that, right? Like
Right.
to come from nothing and to go through the process of building something,
Yeah.
right? And obviously he's facing a lot more other things and whatever else.
Right.
But the idea, like there's some solid concepts there,
Hmm.
right? Be able to control your life, control your fitness, control your health,
Right.
be able to be a man
Right.
when it's important to be a man.
Yeah.
Like, and I think a lot of that was lost.
Yeah, for
At
sure.
at some point, people have become um it's the weak concept,
Yeah.
right? People have become weak or become sensitive to a lot of things. Um,
And also just the image. I think people got more caught in the image of
yeah,
what a quote unquote alpha male looks like. Because
yeah,
I think the issue with Andrew Tate was the image he was
hmm,
showing. Like he was showing like the big house, the money,
hmm,
the cars, the fighting,
yeah.
the cigar smoking, eating steak. Like it's just like I think if you're not, I don't want to say smart enough. If you're not, I'm just saying, if you're
If
not
you're
smart,
ignorant,
yeah, right. If you're ignorant, then you're going to look at what he's doing and saying and just take more of the face value of what he's doing and saying than
Yeah.
actually reading in between the lines and actually doing your own research.
Hmm.
Because like the thing for me is like, yeah, that's all aesthetically like pleasing.
Yeah.
Like, who doesn't want to have a nice house, nice cars, money, the baddest chick, whatever,
Yeah.
eating a nice steak or smoking a nice cigarette. Like, there's nothing wrong with those things, but like, that's not the say all be all either.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's where a lot of men miss that and can get caught up into that, man. So like, I think for me it's like you said, you gotta look at you just gotta look at it as like one, or like, okay, they're trying to sell something. They're trying to sell an image. They're trying to get you to buy what they're selling,
Hmm.
essentially. But it's like, all right, look a little deeper. Like, what makes them like this? Like, what makes them create this facade? What makes them what are they actually saying?
Yeah.
And then like when you hear them out, you're like, okay, yeah, like you said, take control of my finances. Pretty much like take control of myself before I go out there and start just like spread myself too thin, because
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of us get in trouble, man. Like we're so caught up in the the perception of stuff. Like you said, like I gotta always be in like fight or flight mode. I always gotta
Yeah.
be wearing the nicest stuff and all that. Like I gotta be wearing the biggest chain, or I gotta be driving the nicest car and all that. Like all that's not wrong, but at the same time, that's not what being a man is.
Right.
And I think as I was listening more to the Jocko Willink and Jason Wilson podcast, they really was breaking it down. Like, and Jason Wilson, he said something very uh, he said something really good. He was like, you gotta have the lion and the lamb aspect within yourself. Like the
Hmm.
lion is the knowing how to self defense, knowing how to handle a gun, knowing how to be a protector, knowing how to be self sufficient,
Yeah.
and knowing how to handle your finances, knowing just taking control, like we were talking about that whole alpha male of
Yeah.
like taking control of your life. But a lot of us miss that lamb part where it's like, oh, we gotta learn how to communicate properly. We gotta learn how to uh, you know, be sensitive to people, like to our wives, to our girlfriends, to our moms, or even like whoever. It's just not necessarily with females, but it's
Yeah.
just with whoever needs that at the time.
Right.
Like if you were, like if somebody was going through a situation where, um, like, oh, parent passed away, or like they lose a significant other or something, like it would be very insensitive of me to be like, oh well, hey, people die every day, like you just toughen up, like life goes on, you gotta move on. Like
Yeah.
they don't need that at that moment. They need you to like just to kind of you know small yourself a little bit. Like, don't be on your high horse right now. Small yourself a little bit and say, like, hey, look, I understand what you're going through, and I'm here if you need me. Like, let's talk. Like,
Yeah.
if you need to talk about whatever, I'm here for you. I think we miss that in society, especially as men, because like we're all, and we all get caught up in trying to put up a facade like we're okay.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about it in earlier episodes where like we are always like trying to be in this stoic state, right? And but that's the other thing with stoicism also. Like you gotta learn, like it's not we're looking at it for face value, like, oh, I always gotta be like calm and
Hmm.
collective all the time. But it's like, no, if you actually study stoicism, like they're emotional people as well, but they're in control of their emotions.
Yeah.
So they know when they need to be sensitive. They know when they need to be, like you said, that like the lamb versus being like, oh, now I need to be in protective mode.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think that's the biggest thing where a lot of us are missing, man. It's just like we either are too much of the protector, the fighter, the person, the person where I always gotta be like on,
Yeah.
where like we can either be too much of that or too much of the like, oh well, sensitive and
Hmm.
empathetic and all that. So, um, that's to the point of our discussion topic. It's all about being balanced. Like you gotta understand when the situation arises, what does that? Do I need to be this? Do I need to be sensitive, or do I need to be the protector? Or
Right.
and sometimes it's tricky. But yeah, man, but it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Um,
You can't go around smashing everything with an axe
right, right,
and yelling at it.
right, right.
Simpler times though.
Yeah, man,
Right.
but it's but like like you said, we're I think also a part of this is I think for us we're not perfect, but we're learning. I think we're very introspective as far as like we know like okay, this is an area I need to work on.
Yeah.
But I think it was funny just our conversation earlier. We gotta give ourselves grace too when we do mess up in those
Yeah.
times. Um, but but yeah, it's um I would say for me, I'm just really, and I think also this comes with having a good, just a good partner by your side. And we say this all, me and Vanessa say this all the time. It's like being with you makes me have to like look within myself to figure out like how can I be more balanced.
Right.
Um, and sometimes I hit the mark and sometimes I don't. But I think the thing that is working with us is like we're both just figuring out like, okay, what do you need from me now? Do you need me to be lion, or do you need me just to be here with you and talk through whatever you're going through?
Right.
Um, but yeah, but so how I guess when it comes to the mind, body, and spirit, and trying to be as balanced as possible, what are some approach? Well, let me backtrack. What are some approaches that you personally are doing now to try to be as balanced as possible when it comes to like being the lion, but then sometimes you need to be the lamb also.
Yeah, I haven't been doing too good.
Well, what do you?
And
Well,
I guess I say that coming from perspective, I see all my wrongs, right?
right.
Um, Other people are able to see things a little bit differently occasionally.
Hmm.
But then there are those moments where I've become almost robotic in like
Yeah.
how I'm operating things.
Yeah.
Um, and just recently, one of my guys lost somebody in his family,
Mm.
and I was like, because I operate so differently than a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like when my sister passed, I was at work the next day. You get like it was on a Sunday maybe, and
Yeah. I
I
remember.
was at work on Monday morning,
Yeah.
fucking 6 a.m.
Yes. So you work through
Yeah,
your grief.
and and so that to me, or I postponed it. One of the two,
Yeah.
one of the two.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think ultimately when that happened to him, I'm like, bro, you just need to get back in here and work.
Right, because that's what you did.
You need to,
Yeah.
you need to get back in and work.
Hmm.
And during the entire process, I was like, bro, you need to be on this appointment on Saturday. Da 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 da. Boss mode.
Yeah. Not even
Mm-mm.
understanding
Zero concept.
how did he respond?
Oh, I mean, bro, he almost quit. He was at a point where him and I were very close.
That
And
kind of.
bro, it started separating us.
Yeah.
And I was I was so much in a point of was so much in a point of just being like, you know what? I don't care if he fucking leaves. Back in my moment,
Back to the
back to
defense
that
mechanism. Yeah.
space. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, what is he gonna do? Bring the building down with him? Like, just whatever.
I'll replace
I
him
would replace
anyway.
him in a month. Like,
Yeah.
that, whatever. And I started getting in that space, but I was living in that space.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? And
In
not
your
even,
own personal life, that's where
yeah.
you were
And
already. Yeah.
and I was realizing it in some moments, but then there were some moments where it was like it was just on and I had no idea.
Mm,
And it'd be like at the moment he would call me or whatever, it would be an immediate defense.
right.
Immediate defense. Anytime we had a conversation. And I was not being the friend or the compassionate person that I needed to be. And that lasted for 4 months, probably.
Wow.
Just pure, just in that space.
Did y'all ever like
Yeah, yeah.
come
So
together and say like, "Hey, look,
a
man.
couple weeks ago we did.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because we were both at a point where he was doing the exact same thing that I was. Like he was being in his defensive mode, and his defensive mode is a little bit more outward,
yeah,
and mine is obviously a little bit more inward.
yep,
Um, and I was just kind of like, I was at a space where I was like, this needs to be resolved.
yeah, yeah,
And it gave me the perspective, which is kind of crazy, of like being able to notice anytime that something's unresolved, I've got a like a gut
yeah. I got
feeling.
a feeling.
And
Yeah, for
then
sure.
anytime you see that person, you're like, this isn't
We got it.
resolved.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And now I'm able to process that a little bit quicker now
yeah,
because of it.
yeah,
So that's interesting. But we end up having I was like, let's go to dinner, let's have a conversation, let's just
yeah,
put everything out on the table and then just adjust from there.
yeah,
Like if I fire you, if you quit, like whatever that situation is, let's put it on the table there. Because ultimately, us just going back and forth, just having these dumb conversations are just not going to be it.
yeah,
And I had to take ownership of understanding that I was not a good friend. I
yeah.
was stuck in this boss mode of you're not putting up numbers and da da da. Not even I never even asked him if he was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Never even asked him if, do you need anything? I'm
Mm-hmm.
here for you.
Yeah,
Right? What I would do for a friend. And I considered him a friend. And it
yeah,
was
yeah,
just
yeah.
like, bro, how are you going to be that way? And just because I understood, I had I had the certain experience of like, I didn't want people to ask me how I was. I didn't want people to ask me about the situation. I didn't want to talk about it. Um, all of those things,
Right.
right? Um, I'm, and I was just at a point, bro, where
Put a wall up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so bringing it back to the question of um, the sensitivity part, I've not been too good at it.
Mm.
And it's something that I'm working on and I'm trying to catch myself more on. And it comes down to learning more communication. Like I'm so good at communication, like when dealing with a client or understanding a problem.
Because there's no emotional. Yeah, it's straight facts.
And that's my problem.
Yeah.
Is like the moment it becomes a little cloudy or emotional, I'm just not sensitive to it. And so I'm working on being more sensitive, because I know that I can be,
Yeah.
right? And I know that I have the emotions. I'm not like broken in that aspect, but it is hard for me to be there.
Yeah, it's like you said, man. It's something I'm aware of also. Like I'll give you an example. Just probably a couple days ago, like me and my mom were talking, and she was just talking about how like 'cause she has diabetes, and so um, she was just saying how like sometimes like because of diabetes, like she gets in the mode where like she doesn't want to exercise, like something where with like the feeling of like I just feel extra tired and like
Hmm.
and it doesn't because she was saying she went to the doctor and they was like measuring her blood sugar and the doctor was like, well, if you do like if you walk more consistently,
Hmm.
then your blood sugar will be at an optimal level. And so she was saying like how she was telling me that, and also she was saying how like because of the diabetes and my blood sugar sometimes going up and down, I don't be having like the motivation or the feeling to like go walk or go
Right.
just do something or eat right or that. And so like I was sitting there like I'm like, well, let's do both. Eat right and go walk. Like what? I you know the funny thing was, bro, like I didn't even like.
It wasn't registered.
Yeah, it was just it was more of a reflex
Hmm.
instead of like a thought.
Hmm.
Because she was saying like, yeah, it's hard for me to go walk and it's hard for me to eat right because I have cravings. Down. I'm like, all right, just eat right and go walk more. Like what?
Hmm. A plus B.
Right, 1 plus 1. You know, like,
Hmm.
and then she was like, well, you know, that's it's easy for you to say because when I was my mom would grandma went through the same thing. And I was saying the same thing to her, but now that I'm in her shoes, like now I understand. When she said that, it was like, okay, I was a jerk, you know.
Hmm.
But yeah, but I think for me, to your point, it's because of the fact that I'm so black and white too, where it's like, okay,
Right, my dad.
yeah. Hey, what's going on, Mr.
So is
Rob?
this your like Friday thing? You just come in on Fridays?
Yes, sir. I'm part of the team now.
Had to be one. Had to be one.
Kids are over at the house, you know, not allowed to go home.
Yeah, we're coming by tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, when like Z reaches out to you or calls you about something, do you ever just think like immediately think like emergency? You're right. You know, like, either it's emergency or it's like, oh, she want to talk, but
Hmm.
it literally was nothing. So, but no, man, but damn. So then,
Black and white.
okay, yeah. So black and white.
You said you're so black and white.
Yes, because yeah, I was telling about my mom, but yeah, because I'm so black and white, it's just it's hard for me, especially with problems like that, where it's like this is such a just
This is not a problem.
yeah, just go, yeah,
Hmm.
just go outside, like
Hmm.
you could walk around the neighborhood, like it's so
Simple.
simple, but I have to remember. And this is why I always tell myself, like, with my mom or with Vanessa or whoever, it's like they're not me.
Hmm.
Like, like you said, like when when you handle Faith passing away, you just you just went work mode. Like
Yeah.
you dove more into work than
Yeah.
anything. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Let's just like, all right, well, life keeps going, so
Right.
I'm not about to sit here and just
Mope about it. Yeah.
mope about it all day. And actually, I had got my aunt. She always used to say, "Okay, you got 15 minutes to scream, shout, cry, do whatever you need to do,
Yeah.
and then after 15 minutes, we need to figure out a solution." Because life goes on. But
Yeah.
then I had to tell myself like that's how she is though. Like she's very like black and white, go getter, like very like task rabbit.
Right.
So yeah, it's so when I said that to my mom, I was like, okay. And then like the next morning, I was like, hey, I apologize for that. I just,
Yeah.
I did, I wasn't sensitive to like the whole like how diabetes can affect.
The internal.
Right,
Yeah.
man. So, but
I have a good weekend.
All right.
all right, Mr. Ron.
We'll see you tomorrow.
But yeah, so I think we're at the end of the episode here, and so like we always how we always like to end the episode based on what we talked about today. How
Yep.
can you apply that to your mind, body, and spirit?
Yeah, it's one of those things, right? It brings a certain level of um, it brings a certain level of complexity,
Mhm.
right? Because you've got to be the person who can transition between those two things,
Mhm.
sensitivity and aggressiveness. And sometimes you kind of get lost in that, but the idea behind being the man who can do those things will do nothing other than be able to help you further down the road of mind, body, and spirit, whether you're trying to grow in any one of those facets,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because in the mind, you've got to be able to begin with yourself, but also be hard on yourself because you can't be weak.
Mhm.
Um, all the time. And you can't try to hit everything with a hammer all the time,
Right.
right? And then especially when you're talking to yourself, right? Because those are the hardest times, right? Because our dialogue is happening every day, all day,
Mhm.
right? Like you're constantly having thoughts about this, and this. And you've got to be in that space of being able to, okay, am I'm guilty of this, just beating myself up, right? From
Yeah.
the time that I wake up to the time I go to bed, like,
Yeah.
damn, you didn't do that. Well, you're such a little bitch. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
whatever.
Right.
You didn't
Right.
take care of the things you need to take care of, and
Yeah.
that's my own way of speaking to myself because I need to make sure that I've got this idea that I've got to be 100%,
Right.
right?
You gotta be locked in all the time.
So that's mine. The body part, bro. You've got to be able to go back and forth because you need rest days, right? You've got to have
That's
like
a good point.
this whole process of it,
Yeah.
right? Build, and recover, build and recover. Right now, I'm just in a hell of a recovery mode. Right?
I'm
Build and
saying.
recover is it, right?
Yeah.
And then on the back end of that, the spirit, you've got to know when you've got to take the reins
Hmm.
and start being a little bit closer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
um, and making sure that everything is connected,
Yeah.
right? Because it's if one's off, the others are off. Well,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
that whole
Triple
idea,
constraint.
and so that to me is kind of what it speaks to is if you've got that maybe not balance, but being able to understand the transition moments,
Hmm.
it does nothing but extend, mind, body, and spirit.
No, I like that, man. And I agree with all everything you said regarding the mind, body, and spirit. I think for the mind, you just like you say, you just have to really be strategic and understand what the moment demands. Like, really like when you're in that moment, sometimes it's hard to think when it's chaotic, but you gotta really sit there and be like, okay, do I need to be the fighter in this moment? Do I need to be protector, or do I need to be more sensitive, or be more the lover, or more the friend, or whatever that situation demands, that's we have to really think about it in the middle of it because
Yeah.
you brought a good example with you and your employee where just because this was a similar situation I went through and I acted in this way, everybody needs to act this way and
Hmm.
we'll be fine. But, one thing you learn is not everybody's us.
Yeah.
Not everybody can handle, grief in that manner. And so, you just gotta really understand what the moment demands. Do I need to be more compassionate here? Or do I need to give them tough love?
Yeah.
But I think that's the hard part. So understanding like what do they need from me? What they need me to be right now?
Hmm.
And honestly, you gotta ask yourself, can I allow myself to be that person that they need in the situation?
Yeah.
Because I think we both gave examples where, well, nah, I ain't gonna do that because that's gonna make me look da da da.
Hmm.
So we're not really allowing ourselves to be the person that we need to be in that moment.
Right.
Even though like they're literally telling us like, hey man, I just need you to listen, or
Yeah.
I just need to talk to you. So I think that's the mind aspect, the body. I like how you said rest. And it was funny. There's this book. reading called the 5 a.m. Club, and there's a whole chapter about getting, the proper amount of rest.
Yeah.
Because one of the main things they were talking about is you can't you can't you can't attain the success that you're desiring to be if you don't properly rest. Like for
Yeah.
example, like the whole book's around waking up early so you can get your day started, plan your day and all that. So how can I be successful at waking up early if I don't go to bed? Now, of course, there's gonna be times where like you're gonna go to sleep at 11 or 12,
Yeah.
and you just sleeping 4 hours that day. But on a normal day, like normal
Yeah.
days, hey, we gotta get into bed about 9, 10 o'clock so we can get up at 4 or 5,
Yep.
and then that's how we, and they call that day stacking.
Stacking.
Yeah, that's how you can stack your days.
Yep.
But you got to give yourself the proper amount of rest, and also that's just taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
You don't need to be out partying all night. You don't need to be, you gotta eat a balanced diet. Like, yeah, have a little cheat days here and there, but you can't eat like that 24/7. It's a little different for you. I know you're in this 90-day challenge thing, yeah, but I'm just saying I'm saying in general,
Balance.
right. So that's the thing. That's the body part. Make sure you get enough rest and really just fueling yourself properly. And then spiritually, like you said, it's all about making sure, you're centered within yourself and you have the peace within yourself so you can be that person that you need to be in that situation. Because I'm just thinking about the examples you gave. You weren't at peace with yourself with certain situations, which I felt like you projected, like when you said one of your employees had family members pass away. I believe there was something within yourself where it might have triggered like some type of like grief within you or
Yeah.
something. So so instead of you um like being empathizing with them, you were more like, hey, look, just come to work. Like work through it, you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
So you were more reactive instead of trying to, really assist them. But I think like it's just goes back to the saying, hurt people hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm hurt, uh I have to really make sure I'm in a space where like, and you said it before, like if I'm in a space where I can't give you what you need right now, let me give you let me separate myself,
Yeah.
give each other space, and then let me come back, and then I can be the man you need in the moment. But sometimes we don't have that luxury, and sometimes we'll fall short. And so I think overall we just have to continue to find that inner peace within ourselves so we can be the man that we need to be in those situations.
100%. 100%. And it being able to get to that space, man.
It's what I've also learned, man. It's a forever thing
Mm-hmm.
because there's always something like we can be working on.
Yeah.
There's always, and you're always going to fall short. That's the other thing too.
Yeah. The story of Sisyphus always carrying the rock up the hill, right?
Yep.
And the whole story behind it is like Zeus thought it was going to be such a negative thing
Mm-hmm.
for Sisyphus to have to carry the rock up the hill.
Yep.
But he was like, "No, I'll do this all day. Like I like pressure. I like the challenge, and it's a full representation of life.
Yeah.
It's like you always have to carry a boulder up the hill, and at the moment that you choose not to is the moment that it goes back down.
Yeah.
Right?
It was funny. I was on I think it was on Instagram or something. And there was an interesting post. Like there was a guy that had asked a question to Chat GPT. Um, what's the deepest? He said like, what's the deepest truth that people don't quite understand. And um, overall, it was saying how um, discomfort is not something that we should shy away from. Is actually essential to our life.
Mm-hmm.
So, and discomfort helps us grow.
Yeah.
Like, and so we always need to seek to be in situations where we're not comfortable in,
Right.
because it will allow us to, regardless of if we fail or if we, even if we succeed in that situation, we learn from it.
Right.
So it's interesting that you say that, where it's like, no, no, I like this.
Yeah.
I need to be here.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why we both like jujitsu, because it's
Yeah.
like you're always in a uncomfortable
Yeah.
situation, whether you pull guard and
Mm-hmm.
you're rolling against a guy who might be a brown belt, but he's like 250. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So
And you
it's
just
like
get murked.
you're getting murked. Like he's on top mount, top pressure
Yeah.
is OD, but I feel like it just helps you to learn, like, okay, when I got 250 pounds of top pressure on me, how do I need
How do I
to?
handle this situation?
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, but you can always equate that to life, because there's always going to be situations where you have pressure, where it's like you lose a loved one, or you lose your job, or your significant other or your spouse loses their job. How do you handle those situations?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not something that we ultimately need to shy away from. We just need to, as I like to say, we need to ask God to give us strength in those situations,
Right.
so we can grow and learn from those situations, and then as we continue to be better men.
Hey, that's it. Tied up.
Love it. Like, share, subscribe. Like I always say, this is very grassroots. We're not trying to incorporate a whole bunch of equipment, film crew, and all that. This is just two brothers having an authentic conversation that will help us to continue to develop our mind, body, and spirit. Deuces.
See ya.